Welcome back to the Fatherhoods. Gentlemen, how are you?
What's going on?
We're all in effect.
I know it's been a
Happy to
Yes.
be
minute.
here.
Yeah. So we've got another guest with us. This guy's he's a founder and CEO of a pretty large ad technology company. So people that are listening probably don't even know what ad tech is. That's okay. It's an industry that I've been a part of for nearly 20 years. Our guest has been in it for quite a while as well. And we're gonna talk. He's a dad, and we're going to talk to him a little bit about his experience coming through, going through the fire that is entrepreneurship, raising a family, and really ultimately coming out pretty sweet. And we'll get into some of those details, whatever he's willing to share, but kind of just really understanding what that world is like and some of the challenges that you probably faced as a dad. So welcome in Jayson Dubin.
Thank you, man. Listen,
Hey.
I'm an
Yeah.
open book. I'm an open book. So
That's
ask away, and as long as there's no legal or compliance reasons, I'll answer in complete transparency.
and if we stumble into that, please just be like, I plead the fifth or whatever the right canned response is.
And
Plead the
Manny,
fifth of
correction. You said came out of it. We never come out of being parents and fathers. Like
Oh
it never
no,
ends. It's never gonna end.
no, you're right. I was more referring to kind of the stage of entrepreneurship he's in.
Gotcha.
Even though he's not
Gotcha.
out of entrepreneurship, there have been some things that have happened to the company that I think have been really
It
positive.
depends who I'm talking to. If it's like a contract, I'm a startup. You got to help me out. If it's a smaller company, hey, we're the big guy in the room. So
Yeah, that's true. It's all
you got to know your
perspective.
audience.
So Jayson, you're originally from Long Island.
Correct.
You claim Florida now. You've been there for quite a while,
All
and
right.
you have how many kids?
I have two boys. I have a 20-year-old and I have a 17-year-old.
Mm.
So at the tail end, I'm almost an empty nester.
Okay, and then you started Playwire, company you founded how many years ago?
It'll be 17 years this May or June. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a while.
Shit. So your
That's like
wife
a
was
kid.
your wife was giving birth when this
Exactly.
got kicked off.
Exactly.
All right.
Hmm.
Why don't we
So
jump into
yeah,
that?
yeah. How intense is
Yeah.
that from
And with the
fledgling?
young one already at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. People, I have this discussion with people sometimes and they're like, well, how do you do it? And I think, and you hear this with most successful people, that there really is no, um, something's got to give. You can't be everything to everyone at all times. You can either run the business or run the family, and you can try to do a little bit of both, but something's going to suffer. And, when people ask me, this question, I would say I've been very fortunate to have a wife that supported me 100%, 150%. And I probably don't give her enough credit for the work that she did, honestly. You always see the expression behind every good man is a better woman. And I'm fortunate to have that where, for better, for worse. And, I think there might be, especially in this generation, people might get pissed off at this comment, but we kind of had our roles, right? You go take on the world and go make money, and I'll make sure that the house and the kids are taken. And I'm not saying that in a stereotypical way. That's just how we
Right.
kind of positioned ourselves, and we said, okay, we both have our roles, go do it. So, um, in my opinion, that's kind of what really enabled me to do what I need to do, which is, I was myopically focused on this business, really. I mean, it was all encompassing. And for any entrepreneur, it has to be, right. It's, you'll read books and they'll say, hey, is it the first thing you think about when you wake up and the last thing you go about? And it was like, how do I make money? How do I get more dollars? I mean, it was literally, I'd wake up going, can't believe I'm thinking about this. I mean, it's nonstop. So the short answer is really having an amazing supportive wife that really supports you, and you support her, and you kind of live off that. That's the short and long answer.
Talk about the suffering part, because this is something that we've talked about, and we kind of hear it from in our world, especially in the music entertainment space. It's a lot of like, yeah, get out there and hustle and do your thing. And I think people like to tend to gloss over like, yeah, it's no problem. I got my family. I'm out there doing all this, and they make it seem like nothing is suffering, or maybe they don't even realize that they're missing out in certain areas, or if they're putting like the career first or whatever first. But yeah, I'm curious, like, if you kind of knew off bat, like, all right, if I'm going to be super focused on the career side of things, you know, am I prepared for what I might miss out on with the kids and the home side of things?
For better or for worse, I guess I was just so singularly focused. I really didn't hit me till later on. So I would say the regret really didn't happen till I was older, my kids were older. And you're like, wait a minute, I missed birthdays and school plays, and I was on a plane. And again, this is pre-COVID, right? So when people actually had to go to work.
Right.
So it's kind of funny. The kids, not the kids, the guys in my office today are having like, it's never been easier. You're at home, you don't travel much, it's very minimal. It's very, meanwhile, I was commuting to work an hour each way. I'd come home at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, help with the kids, do work after. And then on top of it, I was on a plane like 25% of the time. So I don't think the regret really hit me afterwards. Like you can never get that time back, and you can never get that time with the kids. It's kind of funny because I do have regret. It's kind of one of my biggest regrets. And I'll ask the kids, I made a point to always be home on the weekends, and I always did like a lot of I guess events like camping and stuff with the kids. So they never really noticed it, but I did. So I wouldn't say it was suffering. It was more from my perspective, more regret. It may be suffering for my wife because she had to deal with 2 kids, but for me, it's more regret.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, the suffering maybe not meaning like
Right.
an area suffered, not necessarily the pain of suffering.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you think is it that they didn't notice it, or that just from when they were young, that was just the way life was? Because I'm
That's a
sure
really
that if you were there early on and then you weren't, then they would have noticed it.
That's a really valid point. I would say, that's just how it always was. They didn't know any different, right? That was their life.
Right.
But no, I asked my wife too. I'm like, was I not around? She said, no, you were here. You were present. When you were here, you were present. But you were trying to accomplish something.
Right.
And again, thank God for her. And to be honest, with you, I remember I'd come home from traveling. She's like, "You're messing my shit up." I'm sorry, I need to curse.
No, yo,
No,
yeah,
it's
You're
fine.
messing. You're
Father's
messing things
curse.
up. So she has a routine. The kids go to bed, and like I come home, and they're running all over the place, and I'm giving them food they shouldn't have, and it's like so I completely messed her up. But yeah, it was a struggle. You really can't have both. You either got to like take on the behemoth, which is the startup, or have the family. But I don't think like there's this utopia where you can do both. Maybe there is. I just couldn't find it.
you opened with something that was very like black and white, which I don't hear a lot of people say, and that was you either focus on this or you focus on that. Kind of splitting the baby in the middle like really doesn't work, right? And so how, because you had your second child right when this thing, Playwire was really getting going, right? Was that a conscious decision to have the child? Like, did you guys plan both of your kids, or was that just kind of like you just went with the flow and figured it out?
If I remember correctly, I think one just got past the goalie.
Yes.
And, I know. I think she had wanted one. She, my wife was very meticulous about these things, but I don't think it was so much planned. It was like, oh wow, here we're going. So no, it was more sporadic. And again, she just did so much of it, and I didn't really appreciate that until after, where it's like, oh, the kid didn't sleep through the night all the time. It's like, no, Jason, I just never woke you up because I knew you had to go to work in the morning. So again,
Wow.
having that support system is incredibly, powerful and liberating to allow you to do what you need to do.
I hear something similar from my wife all the time, right? Like I always feel like I'm not doing enough. I have this guilt because, I'm kind of in the infancy stage of kind of where you were as far as like entrepreneurship and building a business and trying to figure it out, right? And there's a lot of time dedicated to it. There's a lot of focus that I need. And now I'm not going away to an office, so there's more complexity to that. But she always slots herself in at the right times, and I'm always checking with her, every so often. I'm like, where am I missing the mark? Like, am I doing something? Am I not doing enough? And she's always like, you're perfect. Like you show up when you need to, you put us first when it matters, and you're focused on realizing a dream. And I'm always looking at her like, bullshit. This is going to come and bite me in the ass at some point down the road, because it just feels way too perfect. Right. And I wonder, in your case, were the responses similar? It sounds like they were, but did you find moments where you were missing the mark and you had to figure out how to address that?
I think I was present, and I think the old adage, like, right, actions speak louder than words. right? So you can kind of give lip service all you want, but as long as you're present and you're there and you're going through the steps and you're being the best person you can be, I mean, there's really not much more you can do from that perspective. I don't know if I answered your question correctly. I
Yeah,
think I did.
yeah.
How is
So
how is discipline when it comes to you being away for a certain amount of time and then coming, just the lifestyle you had? How was it for you? Were you the disciplinarian in the household?
Yeah. I mean, listen, you kind of have to have, it's almost like work, or like someone has to be the good cop, someone has to be the bad cop. And if she's there all the time, it's like, wait till your dad comes home. I remember one time in particular, I have two boys and they were 8 or 10. They got really mouthy with my wife. And I think I might have chased them around. And I'm like, don't you ever, who do you think you are talking to your mom like that? But, you have to be able to put the fear of God into them, and someone has to do that. And it's like, the mom is, if someone's there, not the mom, the significant other that's always there, and at some point you need that support system to kind of like, they need to be scared of something. Someone has to be a disciplinarian. So as much as my wife would yell at them more, I think they were more afraid of me, not that I ever hit them, but, it was like that, oh my God, that he might do that or something. So, yeah, I took on that role, for better, for worse.
Yeah, that's tough. Because then you can oftentimes be looked at as like the ogre when you have a limited amount of time to be around them.
So how many kids each one of you have?
I have a 3-pack. I have a 17-year-old daughter, a 10-year-old son, and a 7-year-old daughter.
Well, you have the spectrum. Okay.
I'm one. I got a 11-year-old son.
And I got 2. I have a 5-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son.
Oh wow, you're
I'm in the
actually
trenches.
starting gates, man.
He's going through it.
Yeah. Mine's a startup still.
That's funny. You just be authentic and just be a good person. I was actually at an event, it's something called YPO, stands for Young Presence Organization. And it's a guy's pretty successful, and his younger kids, kind of like you guys, and I guess being early and successful, like he was like, well, how do I not raise little brats? I mean, whatever they have, and that was like a topic of discussion within this group, and the answer was actually pretty simple. And the answer is, just don't be a jerk yourself. You can say whatever you want. They're gonna mimic your actions, and that's the reality of the situation. So, you ever see like, why certain kids do certain things, like, why they're so much like their parents, and the parents are constantly saying don't, because like they don't do as I say, do as I do, and that's really what's gonna happen. So I'm like, it's real simple. Be nice to people you don't know. Be nice to the wait staff and the people who help you. Be nice to everyone around you. Be supportive to your wife, support your family, and they'll be the same. But if you can tell them to be good people all you want, but if you're a complete jerk and you're yelling at the waiter, that they're going to become that person. They're going to mimic everything you do.
They learn through osmosis.
Yeah, exactly. My kids became, and I never pushed my kids to be leaders. I never put, but I guess by just default, they saw how I did. Like, I'm always like taking leadership positions. I'm always want to be on the board of whatever I do. I'm always pushing to get things done. And it's kind of funny. They just took on these roles. Even though the kids are so different, they both took on leadership roles. So the best advice I can give to any dad is just, be a good person and support your wife. It's that simple. And it really is that simple.
How do you manage emotion given the different pockets you live in, right? Because as an entrepreneur, there's highs and lows constantly. And then you switch gears and you got to go home. It's very easy to bring the joys and the pains from work to the home and screw things up. How have you tried to keep a balance?
Oh Lord, I was horrible in the beginning. I was even horrible to work for or work with, if I'm being honest. Being that, focused entrepreneur, I was like hot-headed, knee-jerk reaction. I had no problem just like lighting someone up in the middle of the office, and just really just bad tendencies. And maybe that was the animal I had to be. And I kind of grew into being an entrepreneur, and you have to be a lifelong learner. Honestly, you have to kind of reading how to do things better. And I had this mentor. His name was Christian Blanco, my COO, and he slowly mentored me to like control my emotions and how to act in a public forum. And I would then take those learnings and bring it back to my house. But it was really bad. Like, I feel bad for some of the people I worked with, and I probably should apologize in advance. But I'm a different animal now than I was then. But long story short, it's hard to control your emotions, right? If you're not, I'm a very passionate person, and I can say one thing, but it comes through my physical attributes. Like, hey, I'm really calm. I'm like turning bright red. My neck is starting to kind of pulsate, and you can tell when I'm not happy. It's I just can't control it.
Yeah,
I wish I could.
I mean, I don't know the answer. Like, it's a really difficult conundrum to find yourself in, especially in those two worlds.
Yeah. Yeah.
How you switch, you turn the switch on and off is tough. And then you got your own, kids,
Oh,
kids
that's
push
easy.
your
It's called
buttons.
Jack Daniels, man. It's, a lot of Jack Daniels.
But wait, but going back to you saying about the kids emulating and you being that good person, did they see that side of you enough that you feel that might have rubbed off on them? Because it seems like you went through a transformation in terms of emotion.
I was pretty lucky, honestly, in my journey. I mean, I had a lot of again, my partner time was joking around. I was like, you're like a heartbeat. Like, you're happy in the morning, you're sad by the afternoon, and you're happy again. Just like you lose a deal, you win it, and that's just entrepreneurism, right? What anvil is going to drop out of the sky? So I guess at work, I was way more all over the place. When I got home, I was a little more controlled. It was a happier place. You have your kids are coming running to you. You have dinner. It's more of like a controlled environment. And then also the Jack Daniels didn't hurt me. Kind of calm me down.
The safe zone with a drink.
Yeah. Again, so you don't want to do too much. You don't want to do it too much. They saw it, but you pour a little sippy cup or something. But
right.
You're right. It's definitely a challenge. And I was also fortunate the company did well. Early on, we kind of just had this trajectory up and to the right, and we only had like 2 down years in 17 years. So
wow,
it's been a crazy ride.
Wait, when you say 2 down years, was pandemic those kind of couple of years in the pandemic?
Oh my God,
were they
pandemic was a massive swing up.
Right.
I mean, that thing just exploded.
Yeah. We the ad tech industry enjoyed that, the spoils of that for sure, for the most part.
So you're an ed, or you were an ed. You're still in ed tech, right, man?
Yeah, I'm still in there. Yep.
And what are you guys in? What field?
Music marketing. Yeah.
Yeah. Podcasting. I do a lot of podcasting stuff.
He's got this small podcast called Drink Champs that in hip hop circles is out of here, but for the common Joe may not be too familiar.
Right. I've always wanted to start a podcast around business and entrepreneurism and ed tech.
You just did. This is your first episode. Congratulations.
Your pilot
Great.
episode.
Let's talk about how can we help the music industry? How can we help you guys get past DRM, digital rights management? Let's figure that out.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Now I have his attention. That's funny.
But when you think about your journey through entrepreneurship, and having kids now, these kids, one is in college or getting there.
Yeah, he's at University of Wisconsin, correct.
Okay, and then we got one likely following soon. Do you want for them entrepreneurship, or would you prefer, is there a preference?
Yes and no. I think there are easier paths, if I'm being honest. There's a lot of guys that, this is a hard road. It's also, strike lightning is hard. Honestly, it's not like a commonplace theme. But I also have 2 different kids, even though I raised them the same. Like my older one is way more cerebral, hates capitalism, absolutely hates he hates everything about it's like, I'll never forget. I came home one day, we were at dinner, and
you raised Che Guevara.
Yeah. We actually did a deal with Roblox, and I put ads in Roblox. And
I remember.
I'm sitting, and he goes, Dad, he starts crying. I'm like, what's wrong? He goes, you ruined my game. Everyone's gonna hate me now. And he's kind of carried that for the rest of forward. But he's way more about STEM, and he wants to be a doctor and help people. My younger one is, I would say, way more like me. Matthew is way more educational based, where I'm a little bit more I would say from the street, because I didn't really grow up on the street, but I'd say way more street sense, way more sales focused.
You're more the hustler mentality.
I didn't do very well in school.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. So my kids, even though I didn't do Roblox, they big Roblox fans, and they do complain about ads in Roblox, but anywhere, like they're watching YouTube, they're quickly, passing through it. And I'm always like, guys, this house that you live in is a direct result of the online advertising industry. So you pay homage, shut the fuck up, take the 15 to 30-second ad and keep it moving.
And tell us to buy whatever it is you just saw.
Right.
Yeah. No, listen, kids are different, and you know, it's kind of funny because raising the same, but they're like fingers on your hand. You know, each one is completely different no matter what. And you have, you know, like I tried to push my older one into every sport possibly. He wanted nothing to do with it. My younger one. He plays lacrosse, he plays hockey, he plays soccer, any sport you could think of. This kid wants to do with a ball. So it's really amazing to see how you can raise kids. They're going to be who they're going to be no matter what you do.
Right.
I always find it interesting, actually, from a father perspective. Like even my wife, you know, my wife has two other sisters, and you know, one of them is completely different than the other. I mean, for no rhyme or reason other than I don't know why, but like they're brought up the same, they had the same experiences, all went to good college, you know, but one is just different than the other, and they're going to be who they're going to be. That's the answer. So you can do whatever you want. They're going to be that person they're going to be, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting.
It's hard too, because like I tell, you know, dads that I speak with, sometimes they have these expectations, and I think that's a mistake in a lot of cases. Like you want to just support your kids to be who they desire to be. You put the guardrails, but don't try to create a path for them. And I kind of made that mistake, like pushing my oldest into basketball because I'm a big basketball fiend. I went too hard, like almost forcing her to play. But then I backed off. And now we had a conversation the other day. I was like, look, I'm sorry if I was too harsh in pushing you into basketball. She's like, it was a little bit much, but I love basketball. So, and I knew, like, you know, from our dialogue, it was like, introduce it to them. If they don't like it, let them do their thing.
But you got to find the middle ground, because you got to give them paths, because sometimes they won't explore anything on their own unless you expose it to them. So
I actually agree with what you just said on that. Like it's kind of interesting. It's a conundrum, right? You know, you don't want to push them, but at the same time, I remember, like, you know, I think on my family, my mom was very laissez-faire, very hands-off. Like she's like, you'll know what to do, you'll understand it. And like my answer as I'm an adult, as a mother, like, no, I don't know what to do. No, I don't understand. I wish you would have told me what to do. So the reality is, by pushing, they might not like it at the time. I guarantee when they're older, like, man, I'm glad I did that. You know, it really helped.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my perspective.
So what do the next few years look like for you as far as like child rearing? You're going to be full empty nester soon. Like, are we thinking about just running around the house naked? Like, what is the?
That's definitely gonna happen. That's definitely gonna happen.
Manny, don't bring your fantasies to this.
That is 100%. That is one of my goals. As soon as I'm an empty nester.
How about we reframe the question? Like, how do you and your wife feel, like, I guess from like an emotional standpoint, for empty nest? Has that like hit you guys to realize, like, damn, both of our kids will be out of the house?
I definitely feel old. I'll tell you that. You know, it's the first time when you look around. You know, usually when your kids are like 16, you're just doing things, you're constantly moving. But like all of a sudden, I looked around, like I'm like the older guy here, and everyone's like little kids. It was definitely like an ostracizing feeling, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I would say she won't agree. Thank God she's not here. I'm more concerned for my wife than myself. Like I'm going to go to work, I'm gonna do the whole thing, and honestly, that, you know, but she does so much more than them than I do, that the concern level is there, even though she won't admit it. But I'm trying to figure out, you know, how does that look? How do I make her transition as easy as possible?
She was the CEO of that world.
Yeah, and a damn good one, man. I'll tell you, the kids are phenomenal. They, you know, I could have asked for better kids that are more well-rounded and respectful, and so really a testament to her. I'm the jerk. But yeah, I don't know where life will take us. Honestly, you know, we'll be empty nesters now. The company's 100% remote, so I can work from anywhere in the world. So there's a lot of optionality around that, and we're trying to figure out, you know, do I want to still be in Florida? I personally miss the seasons.
Yeah.
So
I did when I lived down there. That's one of the reasons I left.
Yeah. So
have the two of you talked about that at all? Has she ever brought it up?
Yeah, no, it's definitely top of mind. You know,
Yeah,
we're definitely kind of like looking at areas and trying to figure out where. You know, I'm a big I love New York, and even upstate New York, so that's definitely a potential. But we'll see.
Oh, when you're back in New York, come through. I live in upstate a little bit, so you can come check the neighborhood out.
Okay.
Manny has a guest house.
Nah,
And he
not
has a guest
quite.
house.
Not quite. Not quite. We're working on it.
We'll see. I don't know. I mean, Florida's great, but I don't know if it's the nostalgia of remembering your youth as a child, but like, everyone's like, oh, when you go back, you're gonna be miserable. It's so cold, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Hey, real quick,
listen,
what
yeah.
one more thing, man. I was curious about the since you've got boys and they're older, how was that transition from, elementary, middle school into middle high school, the puberty age with boys?
Thank God for the internet. It was pretty seamless.
Okay.
It's not like when we were younger. I would say you might think you know I honestly thought I knew everything my kids did. Now they're older and 20, they kind of like, oh, we did it. I had no effing clue what these guys do. I am shocked at some of the things. I'm like, you did what? With who? When? What? How did I not know this?
Yeah.
And again, my kids were, pretty, I wouldn't say the word nerd, nerdy. You love to play games, you really didn't play sport. But so when you find out, like, you do what, man? How did I miss that? And you just don't know. So it's interesting.
It's a little scary too.
Scary. Yeah.
It is scary.
It kind of
Well,
goes back
scary
to
because there's access to information. Again, when we were younger, I'm assuming you guys are around my age. At least you look at me a little younger. It was just harder to get everything's just so readily accessible these days. Everything's legal. Everything's at your fingertips. Everything's right there. There's no waiting for anything. So
Yeah.
those are things that's what scares me the most out of anything is just drugs and alcohol. Everything else I could probably overcome, but getting hooked on those things, I remind them all the time, since we have abuse in my family, is that, alcohol and drugs, they do not discriminate for creed, race, nothing. It does not matter. It affects everyone equally. It does not matter, how successful you are. It does not matter how rich or poor you are. It's the same. You will have the same problems. So that's what scares me.
it's I mean, the best way you can as a parent, right? Like setting that foundation and helping them through that, journey of child rearing or what have you, raising them, is the best offense, I feel like, right? Like you're going to talk to them and counsel them throughout life. You're going to learn things that they've done that you had no clue, like you just said. I've had that same experience with my 17-year-old. Like she's mentioned she's done things, seen things that I never would have imagined she was exposed to.
100%.
And thank goodness she made wise decisions through all of that stuff. But at the same time, like it's a fleeting moment that can change the course of their entire lives if they don't have kind of that foundation, I feel like. And they can still make a mistake, but you're hedging when hedging in the right direction when you do have some of that foundation like locked in.
So I know you guys are music guys, so you'll appreciate this. One thing I did impart upon, they love like 80s and 90s music, from whether it's Billy Joel or Redman or Method Man, or, they have a very wide, so we're listening to the radio and they know all the lyrics. I'm like, oh man, this is great. So you just have that on the radio all the time. They'll appreciate
Well, that's
that.
all I do. That's all I do with my kids. But then my daughter, she gravitates to the Sirius XM Pitbull channel, which annoys me. And Pitbull's the homie.
305, man.
He's a friend, but it's like his channel, I'm not really with it. It's too dance, I'm not into dance music like that.
Yeah, you want a little bit more.
And she just loves it, and she sees like the little icon that shows it's the pill. Yeah, leave it. It's like dunga dunga. I'm like, oh, come on, man. But my son, I'll put the 80s channel on. He's like, yeah, put that one on.
What I find interesting, my kids like Frank Sinatra. Like,
I put that on all the time. That channel on Sirius XM. The Sinatra channel is amazing.
Yeah, I just find it interesting, like how kids would gravitate to that. You figure they'd be like on the pop channels or the top. I mean, they do that too, but they have like these weird kind of like, another weird thing is that my kids are starting to use records, like
Vinyl.
records.
Yeah, that's made a comeback.
Yeah, they're back.
I'm gonna come back.
Like I don't get. I'm like, where do you even get records? I don't know where do you even search for records?
They have stores now, like in my mall up here, they have like a record store with vinyl all over the place. And I'm baffled. And
they're really expensive too now.
Yeah,
vinyl is expensive, man.
I just put my son onto cassette tapes. He's like, he looked at I have a boom box. He's like, what's this, daddy? I said, oh, it plays music. Okay, play. I go, well, it plays this. And he's like, what is it? He's like shaking the tape. And I show him how to put it in there. And he was just amazed by it. Before you know it, the generations coming might go completely analog. You know what I'm saying? You don't know where it's going to go. It might go full circle.
They're almost rebelling against technology in a way.
Yeah.
Can you blame them? I mean, humanity might have to take a step back and say, hold up, let's see where this
Right.
technology is going.
Do you guys, is it okay if I ask questions, or is it?
Yeah.
Go for
man,
it, man.
come on.
How are you guys handling social media? That was always a challenge for me. I mean, the kids wanted phones so early. I think we waited till 12,
So
and
that's a good
even that was
age.
a fight. And then,
So, yeah.
how do you keep them off social? It's almost impossible. I mean, do you, or?
Well,
It's a
mine are
band.
too mine are
It's
too
a
young. So
yeah.
the only thing is that we do let them get the phone to watch YouTube Kids from time to time, and they have an iPad for that. And then my daughter, her school, it's automatic homework on the iPad, which kind of freaks me out because now they're conditioned to use these devices. So it's going to be easier,
Right.
I think, at a younger age to transition to wanting one of their own for social media. But that's terrifying to me, social media for
Yeah,
the kids.
no phone, no social media for us, and we're trying to hold off as long as possible. He doesn't really seem too into it, or like he'll ask about it every now and then, but we've already pretty much stated like, look, you'll thank us
Do
later.
their
You'll
friends
thank
have it
us
though?
later for this.
Do their friends have it yet? Like that's when
Some
it
of
gets hard.
them,
Everyone
yeah,
starts.
some of them do. I mean, he'll bring up like, oh, there's quite a few kids who have phones already, and we're like, all right, good for them. It's not going to be you,
Like that.
So,
But
I would
my
hold off as long as possible if you can.
yeah.
12 was the age where we
Yeah.
caved.
That's
So
beautiful.
my 10-year-old is like pressing us heavy because all his friends have their phone, their new iPhone with all these apps and all these ways of doing things. And he's kind of feels like he's stuck in the ice age with like, we give him an iPad, like an old ass iPad, and it's got message.
Right. And even that you got to be careful because like my son has
Yeah.
he's got his computer and he's got he's got messages on there. But we go in and check and he's like, "Really? You're checking?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're checking." And even with things like he might think it's the friend, they'll take pictures of each other and send them back and forth sometimes, and we even had to just put the clamp down on that. Like it wasn't anything inappropriate, but it was just like, look, you don't even understand. Someone gets a picture of you, you don't know where that's going to go, and this is just like a lesson for later on down the road. Like you can't be naive and trusting that whatever you send is just going to stay within the realm of whoever you send it to. So we're trying to teach him like to police his self a little bit in terms of what he's sharing, even just on messaging.
Yeah, well, that's the difference between being a friend and a parent, right? I always say to my kid, like, I'm not your friend, I'm your parent. And to make that distinction, like, I love you, I'll do anything for you, but when the rubber hits the road, I'm gonna be your parent. Too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll say that, and then we'll be like, "Come on, buddy."
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
What?
No, you got to give that disclaimer and then pick and choose when you use it. Sometimes you're going to use it at the right time. Sometimes you got to fold, right? It's just the way it is. But with social media, I had an experience a couple months ago, and I shared it with the fellas here. But so we did an episode about around Christmas time about Santa Claus, and I had read something on Facebook about if you are someone who believes in Santa in your household and you want to break it to your kid, like who Santa is, like they gave some what I thought was pretty interesting, points to explore with your child. And I posted that and it blew up. Like it's still probably around 3 million views right now on Instagram.
Wow.
But so it went viral. And I was telling my kids, and there's some excitement to that. Like, also, I've never had that opportunity. So I'm just like, wow, okay, look, and just kind of studying what that whole thing is. And I was like, I mean, I know social media is a toxic place, but it was so front and center around a topic that was so positive in its intention that I just couldn't believe how crazy it was. It people fighting in the comments against each other, like you're crazy, and then they brought in God and the devil and all these like things, and if you look in those comments, like even to this day, like they're still going at it, and it was a lesson for me. I was like, we got to police at my house. I have to police or at least show my kids how crazy this thing gets and give them a little bit more counsel around how to navigate social media so that if I feel like it's inevitable. At some point, they're going to get something. When they post something, somebody's going to say something that's offensive or going to be negative, and they got to kind of figure out how to contend with that, because it's unavoidable, it feels like.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the biggest fears, that I think most parents have, is like that, but then the bullying and all that other stuff. It's like they have to have a certain level of maturity in order for them to be able to understand what's about to happen, and then how to navigate that.
Well, they'll encounter that on like Roblox and stuff too, on the chats.
Also,
Like, and I'm always having to tell my son, like, yo, turn the chat off if you can. Don't pay attention. And because you're going to see a bunch of nonsense come through that. Anywhere where there's a crowd of people and they can say something, you're going to find some nonsense.
And I feel like if there's one thing that I want to accomplish in terms of social media when the kids get a little older, is that they don't feel the need to comment. Because I feel like that's the thing that people have conditioned themselves to feel that they have to comment in everything they see.
Like everyone wants to hear your opinion, and
Like,
they don't, right? We really don't.
I don't get it. We're lucky because we come from a generation pre, social media and relying on the internet. So generations after that, you can't expect them, but it's a thing that I'm hoping that I can condition them not to feel the need. It's like they have to say something. They have to have a word in, and that usually creates that dialogue that becomes toxic.
That's part of the hardest learning lesson, going back to the whole being a father thing, was you don't realize, my mom would say, she goes, words are like bullets in a gun. Like once you shoot that bullet and it comes out, you can say I'm sorry, it's out. It can never ever go back in the chamber. And you say things in rage, and that's always my biggest regret. I'll say something, I wish I didn't. Why did I say that? It was so stupid. And I'm trying to explain it to my kids. I'm like, the same thing on social media, especially if there's no anonymity, which it's even worse than anonymity, honestly, because they can say whatever they want without any repercussions. I think that's the worst thing on social media, personally. I wish they would have everyone's account hooked up so who they are. People would be less prone to just blurt out any comment that came to their brain. At least that's my personal.
I agree.
So
Jayson,
yeah.
It was a pleasure having you, sir. I would love for you, if you could, this might be difficult because I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but
hit me.
You had a singular piece of advice that you would give a father at any stage in fatherhood, what would that be?
I'd say the best advice I'd give someone is try and be present. Right? It's really hard. Because when you're in the mix of it, like I think about that right now personally, because I see little kids like, oh, it's so cute. I'm like, how come I didn't have that feeling when my own kids were there? You were just like, oh my God, leave me alone. I'm tired. You want food, and you're just tired from working, and then they want your time. It's hard to be present. It really is. My best advice would just be, if you can, take a minute, be introspective, just remember that they just want to love you. They just want to be around you, and just take that extra minute. Like my youngest would say, hey, could you read me a story? My wife's like, you don't have to do this. I'm like, he's going to stop one day. And I try to make myself remember that, but it's really hard because you're just tired. We all have work and wives and kids and lives and shopping and food and cooking. And the last thing you want to do is like, oh, do I really want to play some card game or some puzzle game? You just don't want to do it. But the reality is, if you can remember and you can muster the energy, go do it. So they'll remember that more than anything. Or you know what? Take trips, camping. My kids remember camping more than anything. It's the weirdest thing.
That's great, because it just reminded me, my daughter, my youngest daughter, the 7-year-old, she every so often she'll ask me to play dolls with her, and random, like she tries to wait until she knows that I'm like off the clock, and then she'll hit me with the, Daddy, can we play dollies? And I'm like, my face goes to like cringe mode, like but I don't show it to her, but then I'm like, let's go play dollies. And
my kids wrote a program not to bother me, right? My wife's like, Daddy's working, so they're so they kind of know. So it's interesting, but that's my best advice if I give any.
Thank you very much.
It's been awesome. I had a lot of fun.
Well, I hope you enjoyed your first podcast for your new show that you're going to come out with soon at some point.
You know, I have a name. I want to run it by you, so you guys thought of it real quick.
Let's go.
All right. The name was going to be Adventure, like advertising, Adventure Capital, a podcast for ad tech and media mavericks.
Let's go. That works.
We're
Work?
ready.
I like
It's
it.
ready.
To the
Now,
point.
I just gotta figure out
It's
how
your
to do
niche.
it. Exactly. How do I get a setup like you, man? With like the
Oh, this
yeah.
was many years of figuring it out, but I could give you some cliff notes and help
do
you
I need a
out.
microphone, or can I just do this as it is?
It sounds good, but at some point you're gonna find
Yeah, the
things
setup is inexpensive, and you could
pretty
upgrade and
basic.
sound a lot better.
How many?
I got
how many
you,
emails
Jayson.
guys? Maybe you can tell me what to buy.
I got you. I'll give you the rundown.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
Really appreciate it, guys.
No, thank you for your
Take
time.
care.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, we appreciate you, man.
Of course.
you,
Be
Dave.
good, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.
Later.
Bye.